What's up, everybody? Mel here, and tonight we are once again joined by some amazing and awesome guests. First, I would like to introduce the wonderful ImppyTzar, fellow streamer, also fellow member of TBLF with me, along with our community member and longtime supporter fishy38T. And of course, you know him, you love him, you've seen him in TBLF videos, you've seen him on this channel before, the awesome and amazing Loli Dragon. Welcome, everybody. Hi, guys. Welcome. Tonight, we're going to be doing the hobby roundup here, where we're going to be going in. I'm not going to do a ton of talking. I'm going to introduce these guys and let them go over what hobbies they're into and how they got into them, and then we're going to just have a conversation. So, with that being said, the first guest on our list is ImppyTzar. Impy, how are you?
Good. How's everybody doing out there in TV?
Pretty good. So tell us a little bit about what you're into.
Well, I have a lot of hobbies, but things that I'm really passionate about are I really enjoy cooking and specifically like historic cooking. And I also enjoy model railroading. Um, you know, building layouts, playing with little toy trains, basically.
And how'd you get into that stuff?
Well, um, primarily cooking. I was not, as a kid, the rough and tumble kid um, on the one side of my family, like my cousins were. So a lot of times I'd stay in the house and my grandmother would put me to work in the kitchen. And on the other side, uh, my parents traveled quite a bit for the work. So I was constantly staying with my grandparents. And I had two amazing grandmothers that were fantastic cooks. Um, and as far back as I can remember, they would have me doing stuff in the kitchen. And granted, things were different back then because this is a lot of years ago.
I hear you.
So they weren't worried about kids. It's like, well, if he cuts himself, he's going to learn the knives are sharp and isn't going to cut himself again. Yeah, the stove is hot. That kind of thing. Okay, maybe not the safest thing. So I just, ever since, 3, 4 years old, I've been around people who have been willing to teach and cook and very family style where you don't have a recipe, whatever. You learn this kind of thing goes with this and this kind of thing goes with this, and you develop a flavor profile, you learn what people like, you learn what people don't like, and put them you put it together and you start building all these little things become building blocks and you put it together. Then, because I do a lot of like historical reenactment stuff, I got into doing historic cooking, and a lot of flavors that we don't think of nowadays are now coming back around. People are rediscovering old European cookie, old American cooking, you know and now with the movement of farm fresh and getting into herbs and vegetables that haven't been seen for 50 years, it's coming around. You can go to fancy expensive restaurants to get good old fashioned cooking.
Wow. Okay, that sounds pretty cool. And how'd you get into the railroads and everything like that too? And specifically, actually, you brought up something interesting. When did you get into reenacting or some of that?
I got into reenacting, like, I was interested in samurai and ninja, you know product of the 80s. I got more interested, um, and actually started to find out real history and stuff as I got a little bit older, in later high school. Heard about a group called the Society of Creative Anachronism. Uh, there's a lot of people in that group that are very history focused, but it's also a fun group. So it's not like they're counting stitches of, well, that isn't that authentic. It's a little bit more fun and liberal on participation.
Okay, that's very cool.
Yeah. Um, so it's a good entryway. And then if you're more interested in the historic elements, and I just always did good in history. I enjoyed reading history. Growing up, I was around uh, a lot of old people, like very old people, on a regular basis. I remember, veterans of World War One telling me about their stories. People who immigrated to the United States in the early 1900s telling me about their stories. This is in on the East Coast originally. I'm not not that close to the sea now,
Right, right. Okay.
but yeah, it just hearing about history. My grandfather was in World War II. My dad was in Vietnam. Um, a lot of personal interest in that, or family history, and that kind of goes with the model railroading because my great grandfather worked for New York Central Railroads, and my grandfather worked for the American Locomotive Company, partially for um, building railroad locomotives, and partially for doing tanks after World War II.
Okay. That's really interesting. All right, and we're going to move on to our second guest, Fishy38T. Fishy, tell us a little about yourself and your hobbies, the things you're interested in. Tell us a little bit about those.
I'm into building military models and airsoft predominantly now.
Now, how did you get into the military scale hobbies, the scale model building?
Uh, I was probably around 7 or 8. My dad bought me a 148 scale Revel A6 Intruder model for a birthday, I believe.
Cool. And now airsoft, I know, is a passion of yours because we actually we have an entire channel because I know you and a few of the other guys got really into it and used that to discuss that. So tell us a little bit about the airsoft and how you got into that.
It started out, I was just collecting a bunch of airsoft replicas of guns that, to be honest, I had no chance in hell of ever being able to get my hands on the real deal. And then once I found out that there was actually a airsoft field in my, well, about 40 minutes away from my house, I just started going there to play.
And what would you say your best piece that you have for your airsoft collection is right now? And what's one of the things that you're working on in the future? What are you looking forward to, like building, or what's one of your fantasy pieces to build? Because I know you do a lot of custom work with that.
I'd say my best performer is probably my HPA RPK.
And that's cool. And what's the one that you're looking forward to? What's one that you're like, if you had the money and you didn't have any restrictions, what would be the one thing you could build in that?
If money was no object and no restrictions, it would probably be. Oh, that's a tough one. Um, wow, that is a really tough one. I never really thought of that.
Well, you can take your time.
You caught me off guard with that one.
That's kind of my job. I do think a little bit about some of the questions, but yeah, and I know you've been working on a lot of things. But let's switch back to the scale hobby for a bit. I know you've been working on a lot of the model builds, and I know you were building a replica. I know you ran into a little bit of problem with that due to the era difference, or I would say the year difference in some of the kits. But what is your favorite to date? What's your favorite scale model that you built, and what's one that you'd like to build in the future that you're looking forward to that you could see in your future building?
My favorite is probably the Pack 40 that got me my first place trophy in a competition.
Cool.
And what was the other question?
What's something that you'd like kind of like a fantasy? Again, this is going to be a little bit like the airsoft question, all right? What's like one of the fantasy ones that you'd like to build? Like you've got, like I know you were looking at some of those really big like 1/4 scale tanks. So like, what would be your fantasy? I think I know what it is, but I'm asking you because
Armor Tech 1/6 scale King Tiger.
nice, very cool.
1/6 scale, all scale thickness armor, fully remote control.
Something that you'd have to put in your garage, huh?
I'd probably have to have a separate building built for it.
Nice. Yeah, that's a pretty big kit. And the last guest that we have tonight is Lolly. Lolly, you there?
Yes, sir.
Why don't you tell us a little about yourself, a little bit about your hobbies, some of the things you're interested in, and we'll take it from there.
Oh man, that is quite a bit of hobbies. That is. Let's see if I can list them all. I'm into video games. I collect anime figures. I build Gunpla. I build some military model kits. I build Legos. I collect military historical items, mostly from World War I and World War II. I collect firearms. I collect books. And I also take care of fish and an assortment of other animals.
Right, so it sounds like we're going to see you on A&E's Hoarders in the future. Gotcha.
No, that'd probably be me.
Actually, it'd probably be all of us, to be fair. Maybe not Impy. Maybe not Impy.
No, my wife constantly is complaining about that one.
Impy sounds like someone I would see on Hoarders. I can see your room, Mel, and we're gonna have a talk about that later.
Now, now since I did this with the other guys, you're not exempt from this. What is we're gonna go with for this. I'm gonna go with your Gundam collection because I know you're very proud of that, and it's one thing that you do. What is your favorite kit that you've built from Gundam? And then what's the one thing, like, if money was no object, that you would like to build with that?
So, my favorite kit, and I'm looking around here to see which one I have to say is my favorite. Oh, there's so many beautiful ones. The new GM Colony Command type is an absolutely fantastic kit. I'm going to be hard-pressed to say it's my favorite, but right now it is.
I can answer that question too, also.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah?
The high grade NZ 666 Kshatriya.
Okay.
Kshatriya. That's a good kit. I haven't built it myself though. Should really get around to that though. But the Master Grade GM Colony Command type, the fantastic kit. The posability on it's fantastic. The inner frame is good. It's got a decent amount of accessories, but you can put that thing on a stand and do almost anything with it. It's great. They did a fantastic job with it, nailed it right out of the ballpark. Now, if I could own any kit, not as grand as Fishy is, probably say I would love to have the perfect grade 00 right, even though it is known to have a few flaws with it. I think 00 is the Gundam that started me on my Gundam craze, and if you look at the 00 Riser, it's really just a cool design.
Okay.
What next questions you got for me?
All right. Next one, we're gonna go with your. Since we already really kind of went into your firearm collection the last time we were on here, I want to touch a little bit on your book collection because I know that's something that you're very active and an avid reader. And aside from what was it, German Boy, which is the most depressing book that I think we ever heard of. What was your? And just we won't discuss it, but it was just like it was literally the opposite of a ray of like it was like the opposite of rainbows when he was describing that book to me. So we're gonna go on. What is like out of your library collection? What is your favorite? What is kind of the book that you treasure the most?
Since I can't say it's German boy, since you said I'm not allowed to
No,
talk
no,
about.
you could if it is, that's fine. But we just won't. I mean, we can go over what it was, but it's just it was rather. I remember you telling us, and I was like, "Wow, everybody will if we get there, we'll get there
Well,
later."
As a memory of how I got it, it's German boy. But my favorite book in terms of what I've read has to be A Higher Call.
Oh,
It's
that's a good book.
yeah, it's a story. It mostly follows a German pilot during World War II, but it also tells the very unique story of how he pretty much escorted a very wounded B-17 back to the English Channel. But this learning the story of a singular German pilot who had a history that was so grand for any pilot during the era in terms of people he met and the squadrons he fought in, and being able to see how he felt about everything that was going on and getting to learn about the Luftwaffe's views on stuff like the Nazi Party is very, very enjoyable. And I would highly recommend, if you have any interest in World War II aviation, to read that book.
I have that book. I just haven't had a chance to sit down and read it yet.
I want you to sit down after this, Fishy, and read 5 chapters.
I gotta find it first. I don't remember where I put it.
I think it was
I
between.
didn't know this was coming with homework.
You never know what's going to happen on this podcast. I tell you.
Impy, I want you to clean the whole dang house.
Oh crap!
Oh, I'm sure his wife's going to love that. But let me say this. I think the best thing is actually because I think it was actually between you and Fishy like last year that I ended up getting A Higher Call for my birthday. It's one of the books that I got a lot. I have a lot of history books too. Lots of books on history, lots of books on everything. I mean, I will do a pan around when I get a better camera. We'll do a pan around here and we'll go through my library one day. It'll be an interesting experience to say the least.
That's
oh my
that's
god!
why I don't know where.
Oh,
Sorry.
your wife throwing you under the bus, Impy. She wants you to wear a maid outfit.
She makes me. I don't do it voluntarily, but she makes.
There's a lot of fear in that voice. I can tell you right now. I'm kidding, but
Did she make you sew it together yourself?
No, she knows I'm not that good with lace.
Pointy things, sewing needles.
Listen, we got to be careful. This might go to an after hours podcast. But I mean, I actually, it's been a lot. I have to say a lot to you guys. You guys have been members of the community, and we all have. I think TBLF and Bo as a kind of a unit, as a force that kind of brought us all together. I know Fishy and I met because of I think Bo hosting me one night, and Impy and I and Lolly are all in TBLF going back years now. We're kind of some of the old men in there now.
Yeah, there's some new guys in there that come around and hang out. And I feel like that old guy that's like, get off my dang porch sometimes.
One thing I got to say is there's one thing, Impy, I remember you were designing it last year. It's one of my favorite shirts that I ordered immediately as soon as it went live. Your SRLF shirt with the squirrels, the one with the squirrel in the plane.
Oh yeah.
How long did it take you to design that?
That went. I would say, like I had a pretty roughed out one that was pretty close. In what was that, about a week, Lolly? Because I know I was kind of picking your brain on it too, and using you to be like, "What is it? Do you like this? Is this kind of good?"
I mean, I would say something, but I have to go with the answer of I've slept since then, and I don't remember too much.
Okay. Like generally the basic concept of it and getting the layout and stuff right took about a week, but actually fine tuning it, making sure that it was going to be, reproduce a lot of the colors pretty well on, you know, that takes some doing. It took about three weeks, but I'm only like working on it a half hour here, 2 hours here. It's I would say there's probably 35, 36 hours into that.
Right. Sure. I remember when you were doing it too, because I looked at it a few times during the design process, and I think you were actually streamed a little bit of that, if I'm not mistaken.
I did. I think I did. I think you're right about that. I was trying to do that. Although streaming that was kind of difficult because the streaming software and the graphics software don't like each other all that much. So the graphics software got a little prone to crashing.
Actually, you know what? I have to say this. Let me put a link to it up there. If you are at all, by the way, everybody, if you are at all interested in purchasing this shirt, which I think is like I said, it's one of my favorite shirts. That link in the shirt currently is $13 on TeePublic. So if you're interested in it, there's a link to the TeePublic store, and you can go ahead and purchase that as well. Just a little bit of a plug out there for you, MP.
I might be
Oh well,
interested in buying.
it's. I mean, by all means, that's actually part of Bo's store. I don't have a store for myself.
Right.
That's all for that. But I know he would love that, and I know a lot of people like that shirt. So if you like that shirt, please
Yeah, and like I said,
support the community.
absolutely. And you know what? At $13, it's one hell of a steal because they're very good quality shirts. Like I said, I have that. I have it in asphalt gray because it's kind of my favorite color. But one of them anyway, and black. But I don't really think that black technically qualifies as a color. But hey, we'll call it a color just for argument's sake. But if anybody's interested in it, that shirt is up there. The design is 100% done by MP. Put a lot of work into it. So it's one of, like I said, it's one of my favorites. And I'm just going to plug you a little bit here, MP, and Bo a little bit because again, there's thanks. And we're going to have Bo on in a couple of weeks. It's going to be me and Bo sitting there chatting about history and video games. So that should be a fun stream, to say the least. It'll be exciting. But yeah, so one of the things I think that we all have in common is video games, and I know we all have at one point or another played War Thunder. But what are some of your current favorite video games to play? Because that's definitely a hobby that we all share. And any one of you can take that first. Just go ahead and we'll have a conversation.
I know. Well, lately I've been playing a couple of train games. Railway Empire. I'm playing. I'm not doing too well on the actual campaigns.
But are you having fun?
How do you not do well on a train game?
The competitors that they set you up against, their voices are really annoying to me, and I like rage quit when they like screw me over.
That's fair. I can understand that. Also,
but now
go ahead.
Right now on that one, I'm doing it's not a sandbox mode. You still have like tasks you have to do, and you still have to earn your money. It's that I actually do enjoy. I've finally gotten to the West Coast on that one.
Nice.
It's like pre-Civil War, and we've already hooked the East and West Coast via rail lines.
Very cool.
Also, there's an independent developer, guy who has a full-time job, has developed a game called Mashinki. I'm probably butchering it. It's a Czechoslovakian game, It's a great little game. It's very beautiful, fun to play. Those 2 games I've been playing, and War Thunder, which is a never-ending addiction and just all around, grindy fun. And I say that with irreverence.
Well, I know, because I know sometimes the fun is a little bit painful and questionable at times. I think we've all gotten to that point in certain times in that game where we've been like, you know what? I'm going outside now before I break my computer. I know Lolly's been there. And I've heard you get there too, Impy, on occasion. So, Fishy, what? I know you've been playing a certain submarine game. And that you have
4, yep.
Yep. And I know you've been now Fishy has a streamed on occasion. So I would call him an occasional streamer, but he is definitely going to get more into that. So as he gets into that, of course, since he's a member of the community, as is everybody that is in our Discord. So if you do, remember, let me know and we'll get you out there. But what do you enjoy the most about that game? What's
probably just the ability to go wherever in the Pacific you want to go. If you want to say it's 1942 and Guadalcanal is still going strong, if you want to go down there and sink ships in the down in the slot, you can do that. If you want to go up to Japan and sink ships up there, you can do that too. There's nothing restricting you on where you can and can't go. Heck, if you want to go all the way out to the Atlantic, you can do that. There's nothing there, but you can.
Nice.
A lot of water to traverse.
That is a lot of water.
Yeah.
So it's the Pacific.
Thank
just the
God
Pacific
for time
alone.
compression.
Right. All right, you're going to be going to the Atlantic now. Just don't move anywhere for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I started putting mods on it now. Now that I've pretty much, probably that campaign I was doing, I'm probably only going to come back to that periodically because I've gotten to the point of diminishing returns on it. There's just far too many destroyers around and not enough merchant ships for it to be fun anymore.
Okay.
Not enough targets that are not going to bite back, is there?
No. And the destroyers are getting much, much more dangerous.
Ah. And I'm going to toss this over to you, Lolly. What have you been playing lately?
Oh, man. I've been playing a mixture of Dark Souls 3, Project Cars 2, and Earth Defense Force 4.1.
And how are you enjoying Earth Defense? Now, how did you come across Earth Defense Force? Was there a specific motivating factor or person that got you involved in that game?
Oh, there's 2. One of them is named Master Mouse. The other is named Wanny13. I know people on here know who Wanny13 is.
I don't think there is a person alive that doesn't know who Wanny is now.
Who is Wanny?
Well, apparently Fishy. Apparently it's Fishy.
Fishy might be the only one.
The only one. But no,
I'm joking.
I know you know who Wanny is.
No, the Humble Bundle sale from March had it in there, and I was told I need to get it mainly because it had Vermintide 2 in it, but Earth Defense Force was also in there, and I was thinking Earth Defense Force, it could be a fun game. I started when he had me start playing it. Holy cow, is that game amazing! Like it's the B-list monster movie as a video game is the best way he's described it. And it's just so much fun to go around and just shoot things, just shoot giant bugs. And
that's what I always thought about the Destroy All Humans series.
Yeah. But just the level of detail it's surprising for a game that's probably got not a very big budget. The level of detail into the maps and stuff it's great. And it has I I've put 6.5 hours into it, and the game says I have 1% completion.
That's pretty big.
That's a lot of things I have to do to get 100% completion.
Certainly is, yeah. Sounds like I have that game too. I should install it and join you guys.
Yes, you should, and you will have a lot of fun.
Yeah, maybe we'll do that on stream one night.
That would be a great
That would be
idea.
a lot of fun.